Hi, Navya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. My name is Ocean,
Nice to
and
meet
welcome
you.
to Midday.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you for your time. So, first of all, congratulations on the second season of What the Hell, Navya.
Thank
And
you.
I find you more relaxed this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
I feel like, have you taken some sort of reviews or criticism on the previous season before you could start this one?
I think we just, I mean, I especially watched the entire first season before we went into recording for the second season, just to see that, what the conversation was like, and also to see, yeah, and make sure that we weren't kind of repeating any discussions that we already had in the first season. But yeah, I think I definitely found myself more relaxed and more comfortable with the whole process of hosting a podcast. And I think it was a lot more. I had a lot more to say, a lot more opinions, a lot more experience from the first season, as well as so much that has happened in my professional life in the last year. So a lot more that I could talk about, and a lot more that I could share with, my mom and my nanny.
So also this season, the topics, like you said, are much more intense and, of course, very interesting. Especially what I got hooked onto was the part where your Nani spoke about anxiety. So when you decide what topics you need to approach, is it a conscious decision that you have to approach something that is taboo and not discussed among youngsters, especially with family members?
No, I think the topics and the themes largely that we cover per episode, firstly came from just a curiosity point of view of myself. I think these were all things that I wanted to discuss with my mom and my nanny. Things I wanted to get their opinion on. In terms of them being taboo, I do think that there is far more conversation and more transparent conversation around most of the topics we've discussed in the podcast today, whether it's on social media, even if it's through the content that we see, or things we read online. So I definitely do think that there is a lot more openness to having such conversations, and I'm glad that we were able to also do that in our podcast. I think these are very important conversations that should be had in open forums, and especially for the youth, like you said. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of integrate some of these conversations in our podcast as well.
Also, from what I've seen is the three of you always share your, personal details or first-hand experiences when you're discussing things. Do you find yourself in a vulnerable spot because a lot of information about you and your family is out there now on social media?
No, I think everything we've talked about on the podcast, even in the first season and the second season, I think the whole point of the show is that we share our personal opinions and we share our personal views, right? If we didn't kind of share what our individual journeys were like, then, the podcast doesn't really have a meaning to it, because it is about three generations of women from the same family having different experiences. So I do think that the way in which we communicate what we feel and our experiences is in our hands, right? It's through my channel, it's through our podcast, it's our voices. So I think that we don't have necessarily a problem with it. I think we're glad that we have been given a platform where we can talk about our experiences and share our views. And I think that's also what people really like about the podcast, is that it is our unfiltered, honest opinions, and it's our honest experiences. And I think that that is really what clicks with the viewers as well.
I think you're doing a fabulous job there.
Thank you.
So, Navya, you're also, before this podcast came through, you've been an entrepreneur yourself at a very young age, I must say. Um, Starting off as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you've faced millions of challenges along your way to get here where you are. What were your most biggest challenges as a woman in business?
So I mean, I started, my nonprofit after I graduated college, and I think my journey is probably different to majority of women in India today, because I do come from a very privileged background. So for me to start something at 21, 22, was far easier because I did have that support from my family, whether it was financial, whether it was, the kind of support you need for an entrepreneur to start. I think for me, those barriers were far less. But I think unanimously across maybe young entrepreneurs, something that is challenging is the age aspect, because I think a lot of people often doubt that, if you're too young, you're incapable or inexperienced to be doing what you're doing. And that's also something that I faced and still do face to some extent, because the kind of work that I do is very serious, right? We're talking about very serious issues, and sharing views and opinions on some very stigmatized and taboo topics like menstrual hygiene or domestic violence, things like that. And often your age and experience is questioned. And I think this is probably something that most young people, especially young women, face. So I would say that is definitely something that, initially in the first couple of years was something that would affect me a lot. But I think today it's something that I kind of use in a positive way, in the sense that since majority of India's population is young, I think that there is a pride in the fact that I'm able to kind of put my voice out there as a young person in kind of shaping how, the country's future goes moving forward.
Fabulous. So, Navya, because you have faced, these challenges along your way, but who has been your biggest motivator to never give up?
I mean, I don't know if there would be one person, but I think, in my family, my dadi, who kind of passed away a couple of years ago, was an entrepreneur herself. She was, a working woman. She started her own business, and she was, somebody that really inspired my entrepreneurial journey, because I kind of grew up in Delhi, watching her and hearing her talk about her work with so much excitement and so much pride. And she always spoke about how it's so important for women to have a sense of independence, and that comes with financial independence and being financially secure. So, I wish that she was around today to kind of see what I'm doing, because I think she would be really happy and really proud. She was really somebody who kind of inspired me to walk down this kind of entrepreneurial route.
Indeed. So, Navya, you also spoke about your privilege in my previous question. Um, Despite all of this, how do you keep yourself grounded? Because I see you're very relatable, to the youth, and you don't have a starry air around you. Everybody is very, open to communicate, and you kind of gel in with the youth quite on a good level, I must say. So, what keeps you grounded?
I mean, I don't think that firstly, I don't think that any of the accomplishments or achievements that come with my last name have been mine, right? This is hard work and effort and a very, very, very long journey that my family has put in to kind of achieve that level of fame or stardom. That's not something I have personally achieved. So it's not something I carry on my shoulder, because those achievements are not mine. And I know that one day, through hard work and through dedication and, consistency, I might reach that stage in life. But I don't believe that, I'm a star. I don't believe that I've done anything that great to kind of have an air about anything or carry myself in a particular way. I think my journey has just begun, and the fact that you said that I'm relatable is probably the biggest compliment ever, because I think, if I'm working in a sector that does things for people, if I'm not able to relate to them, if I'm not able to connect with them, then what I'm doing is not going to be very fruitful. So I think it is really important for me to constantly also, push myself out of my comfort zone, and walk out of the bubble that we all kind of tend to live in sometimes, and meet other people and be open to interacting with as many people as I can. I think that's what's going to really help me in my work. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's anything that I am still grounded. I'm not above the ground. I'm not in the air. I'm just kind of happy being where I am. And I think that my family is also a constant reminder that there's always more to be done. There's always more you can do through your work. And the only way to do that is to just keep your head down and continue working.
So, growing up, was this something that you've always wanted to do? And where do you see yourself going forward, like in the next 5 or 10 years?
I think, yeah, I think growing up, I grew up in Delhi, like I said, and my dad's side of the family has been in business for the last 4 generations, and I'm the fourth to be working in our family business, Escorts Kubota. So I think I kind of grew up more in that environment of entrepreneurship, business, all the women in my life, from my grandmom to my aunt to my mother. I think they're all working women. They've all been entrepreneurs themselves. So I think growing up, that was always something that I wanted to do as well and kind of be like them. And I think in terms of where I want to be, I'm not sure because there's so much that I want to do. But I think I'm just grateful for the opportunities I have right now. And I just hope that I can continue making the most of them. I know that a lot of opportunities that I get, I'm very fortunate to have. So I want to give it 100%. So I don't want to think too far ahead in the future. I want to focus on what's on my plate right now and do kind of justice to that.
So, as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of people management that comes in, and you are working and dealing with so many people, different kinds of people from different backgrounds. How do you make sure that as a young entrepreneur, your voice is heard?
Yeah, I mean, I think most often, and probably most young people can relate to this. You're always the youngest person in the room. You always, are in terms of age on the younger side. You have far more experienced or older people in the room with you when you're discussing things, whether it's business, whether it's entertainment, whether it's politics, whether it's journalism. I'm sure even you might have seen that, there are often younger people in the room who don't speak up. But like I said earlier, I think 60 to 70% of India's population is young. It's below 30, 35. And I think that if we don't raise our voices, if we don't put our point of view across, then we're doing a disservice to ourselves in the future and the generation coming after us, because we have to be the ones responsible for building India's future. And if we don't play an active role in that, then where we are doing a disservice to ourselves. So even though it is a little daunting, it is a little intimidating, but I always try to kind of put my voice out there also, because I know that maybe sometimes I'm in a particular room and I know that there are so many other people that I'm speaking on behalf of who are not in that room with me. So it's not just a personal responsibility, but also a responsibility for so many other people who probably would want to be in that room but haven't maybe got the chance to. So I think it's also a responsibility to speak for so many others, and I think that most young people do feel that. I think that we are in that sense very community driven. I think young people really want to speak for their community, want to speak for their people, and I'm just kind of trying to do the same. So even though it is a little scary sometimes, I think you have to constantly remind yourself that it is important.
Awesome. Navya, what I really like is that you have a very good relationship with your grandmother, your mother, and it's, the three generations come together, and it's just beautiful to see. I do have a daughter, and I really wish to have that kind of, gelling and friendship between a mother-daughter. And, growing up, when as a daughter, when you communicate with your mother and suddenly you become mature and you're having a podcast, what does your mom, does she ever sit you down and, kind of talk you through things like, okay, you've grown up and this is what you need to do?
No, I think my mom has always, given me a lot of independence to do what I want to do. I think she's been very supportive in my decisions, whether it's been professionally, whether it's been personally. I think she comes from that school of thought. And if you hear the podcast, she's said that as well this season, that, she comes from a school of thought that, I, as an individual, have to live my life, and she will support me in any and every way that she can. And she wants me to make my own decisions, whether those are right or wrong decisions, are still mine. And I think that that's kind of what she's followed. So she's never really kind of sat me down and told me that you should do this and you should do that. She's always given me the freedom, and I'm very grateful for that, because I know that not a lot of people get that kind of freedom from their parents. So I think I'm very fortunate to have parents that gave me the independence and freedom to make my own choices and choose the path that I'm on right now.
Awesome. That was lovely. I really enjoyed this conversation,
Thank
Navya.
you, so did I. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and all the best for your
Thank you
future
so much.
projects.
Thank you.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.